All right, so if you have been watching the news the last couple of days or you've been on Twitter, you know that Johnny Depp has just gotten a huge, huge, and well-deserved break. And if you are not someone who follows film or cinema history very closely, you may not know the significance of a film being entered into and screening at the Cannes Film Festival. The Cannes Film Festival, it is the biggest and most significant and most prestigious film festival in the world. And not only that, but I would say it is more prestigious than even getting an Academy Award or an Oscar. Okay. Now I understand most people, the Oscar is the most significant, and that's what the actors are really coveting. But I'm just saying that there have been numerous times throughout the history of cinema where an amazing work of art that very much deserves to be recognized as the best work of cinema that year, it gets overlooked in the Academy Awards. If there have been many instances in which a film like, well, let me give you an example. So my favorite movie, okay, of all time is Apocalypse Now. And in fact, I get my moniker Colonel Kurtz from that film. And in fact, I'm actually wearing a Colonel Kurtz t-shirt. Now you can see how dorky I am. I mostly wear it because I think that the green brings out the green in my eyes. And so actually it doesn't really have much to do with like fandom or art appreciation. It's just pure vanity on my part. But I also like the fact that, Colonel Kurtz is wearing Colonel Kurtz. So this is actually Colonel Kurtz. This is Marlon Brando. Yeah, and this is like his monologue from one of his monologues from the film. But anyway, there he is. And so this is my Colonel Kurtz shirt. Well, anyway, and I've also got this on the wall. Just a second. Charlie Don't Surf. That's a reference to Apocalypse Now. You see the helicopters here. Dun, 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 dun. It's not for everyone, this movie. Some people might even say it's boring, and I understand that response. But here's my point before I get back to Johnny Depp. Apocalypse Now, when it came out, it screened at the Cannes Film Festival. And it won their most prestigious award, their top award, Palme d'Or, which it did not win the equivalent of that. It did not at the Oscars. It did not win an Academy Award. It won the Cannes Film Festival Award that year, and it is a demonstration of the fact that the Cannes Film Festival seems to be, generally speaking, and I know there's politics with that as well, but generally speaking, it seems to be more inclined toward actually recognizing real art and celebrating artists, and also celebrating people who take chances and do edgy things and take risks. And that brings us to the topic of Mai Win Besco. She goes by Mai Win or May Win, and she is a major director, artist, star in France. She started off as an actress and then she transitioned to directing. So it's interesting to me, it'll be very interesting to me to see what she does now, looking at pre-revolutionary France and King Louis XV and his girlfriend, so to speak, his mistress, Jeanne du Barry. So in this film, in Johnny Depp's film, and I want to talk in a moment again about the significance of it getting into the Cannes Film Festival, but in Johnny Depp's film, he is going to play King Louis XV. You remember the French Revolution, right? You had Marie Antoinette, you had King Louis XVI. They both got their heads cut off, and the whole country basically fell apart, and there was different various cycles of violence. And then finally, you had the emergence of a kind of a strong man who billed himself as someone who would sort of restore order and put everything back together. And of course, his name was Napoleon. Well, anyway, the father of Louis XVI, of the king who got his head cut off during the revolution, the father was Louis XV. There's a famous quote attributed to Louis XV, and it goes something like this: "After me, the deluge." Now, deluge, as you know, it means like a downpour of rain, right? So we look outside and it's raining. It's actually raining right now. Might be able to kind of hear it on the mic. We look outside and it's raining, and you say, "Oh, there's a deluge." Okay. So when Louis XV, Johnny Depp's character, when he supposedly said, "After me, the deluge," what he was saying, and this was such like an asshole thing of him to say. I don't know how Johnny Depp's going to play the character or anything, but Louis XV, when he said this thing after the deluge, what he was saying was, yeah, I know that I've basically allowed this country to get into a really precarious position, and I put the monarchy in a really precarious position, and things are going to be really, really difficult for my son when I'm gone. But hey ho, I'm just going to party it up and have a great time, and with my mistress and whatever, because I know that it's not going to affect me, because it won't be until after me that the deluge comes. Right? So this guy is a really interesting character, and I am very interested then to see what Johnny Depp is going to do with this character. Now, May Wynn, the woman who's directing this, is also starring in it, and she's starring as Jean du Barry, the lover of mistress, whatever you want to call her, of Louis XV. Here's the point, okay? There were a number of people when this movie was first announced. I'm just talking about like way back, whenever it was, many months ago. When this movie with Johnny Depp was first announced, there were a number of people who said, well, I'm sure he's going to have a really small, insignificant role, or at best, it's going to be a very minor supporting role, because Johnny Depp is not this adept French speaker. Yes, he's been living in France for a long time. And of course, he was with Vanessa Paradis for a long time and all of that. But like he's not known as being this really fluent French speaker, and this actor who does French films, and so of course it's going to be a small role. And what I love is that apparently, I mean, by all appearances, it's not a small role. In fact, he's going to be, it seems, the main male character. So anyway, I'm just saying that I think he's going to have a huge role in it, and is going to be the main star, one of the main stars of it. And I think that it's going to be a very successful film. Now, why do I think that? I believe that because, first of all, I've seen Maywin's other work, and it's excellent. But also, the fact that Cannes Film Festival has not only accepted this film for screening, because understand, everybody, this is a huge thing, all right? It is very, very difficult. Even if you are a great director, even if you have made a good film, it is very difficult to get into Cannes Film Festival, because they do have a limited number of films they can screen, and it's a limited number of days, however long it lasts. And so, and it's the biggest film festival in the world. So anyway, the fact that they allowed this film to come in for screening, for Johnny Depp's film to be entered in, that is huge, huge, huge. But that is not all, because not only is it going to be entered in for screening, but it is going to it's opening the film festival. It sounds like they are giving this film the primary place of importance in their lineup. So to headline the Cannes Film Festival and to be starring in a legitimate, it sounds like highbrow French historical drama. Like, what are you doing, Amber? Because you ain't doing this. So good for him. And look, here's the thing. People in Hollywood, people in the entertainment industry, they can get on their high horses about all kinds of BS, but they have short memories, and they're going to go, most of them narcissistically, they're just going to go whatever way makes them look the best at that particular moment. So, Johnny Depp, everybody knows that Johnny Depp is beloved by the public, and that the woman who tried to bring him down is definitely not. That she, her very name is anathema to most of the public. And they know that if Johnny Depp or his film wins the Cannes Film Festival, that is going to put him on a huge role in terms of media publicity and in terms of legitimacy, because the public are already behind him. Everyone knows that. It's just the media and some of these holdout activist Me Too types in the industry that are resistant. So if he or his film, they win this award, I don't see why he couldn't be a serious contender for the Oscars. We've got a year till the next Oscars rolls around, right? And that is a year during which time this film can be widely released. Johnny Depp's film, this French film, Jean du Barry, can be widely released. And a lot of people will have seen it by the time next year comes around, or whenever they choose the nominees. A lot of people will have seen it. It'll have gotten a lot of positive buzz. And I just think by that point in time, everyone, mostly everyone except the activists and the holdouts and Cat 10 barge, I think that mostly everyone is going to be not only welcoming toward Johnny Depp, but just extremely enthusiastically welcoming. So I just want to say this: the movie must be good enough that the committee, the screening committee at Cannes, they've seen the movie. Yes, of course, they had to see it to allow entry. They've seen the movie, and they thought it was not only good enough to be accepted into the Cannes Film Festival, but good enough to headline it, to open it up, which is huge. So the movie, and of course, maybe they did that too for some buzz or whatever. But it's got to be a pretty decent film. And so if it does well, if he comes off well in it, because he's a tremendous actor, you know. Minamata, I thought he was amazing in Minamata. Even did a video on it. But if Johnny Depp does well in this and it gets some critical acclaim and some media buzz and whatever, like I think that he could be well on his way to an Oscar nomination and full reinstatement in Hollywood, which, if you've been following this case and what he has been through, is really in some ways, nothing short of a kind of a miracle. So kudos to the French, or at least to whoever makes the decisions over at Cannes Film Festival, and kudos to my win for having the guts, and I guess having the guts and also having the humaneness, because she could have chosen other people, but the humaneness to choose Johnny Depp for this role. And of course the cleverness too, because it's going to build so much. Look at what's happening. It's building so much buzz around this film, and it's creating a kind of a new fan base for her work, because tons of Johnny Depp supporters, and not just Johnny Depp fans, but all of the support that he has built over the years of being so prolific in the industry and so beloved and so charitable, and also the goodwill, the tremendous goodwill that he has accrued as people, as the public, sat at home and watched him over the course of weeks have to go through a kind of a hell in that case, in that trial. And people know what he's been through, and not only are they ready to welcome him back with open arms, but they're also ready, perhaps, to get a little bit of an advantage out of it. So good for my win. I'm so happy that her bet on Johnny Depp is playing off. Clever girl. And see, this is the thing that so many people don't get. Or rather, I guess so many people who keep kowtowing to, or these different woke political ideologies, or just letting these things like Me Too just run roughshod over justice at times. What they don't get is that there is actually a there is a personal benefit, or there is a profit to be made in being courageous. And the thing about courage is that it doesn't provide typically an immediate payoff or an immediate benefit, right? In fact, it's generally pretty scary to get out there. And I'm not talking about myself. I'm talking about my win, and I'm talking about a lot of the other people who did have the guts, like Doug Stanhope, for instance, just one coming to mind, but all of the people, um, and his friend Marilyn Manson, who also spoke out for Depp, right? All of the people who spoke out for Johnny Depp in various ways, or who supported him and took risks, maybe took small risks, maybe took big, huge reputational risks, right? It was a big risk for Maïwenn Bescot, this French director, to not only put Johnny Depp in her film, but also to make him the lead male role, to make him the star of it, basically, because he's going to overshadow the whole film, and in a good way. But it was not obvious when Maïwenn put this whole thing together, or started this ball rolling a couple of years ago. And it was, if you'll remember, that was pre-trial. It was not at all evident 2 years ago that betting on Johnny Depp was a good bet. Not to mention centering your whole film around him, making him a primary component of your film. And she had to have known that would bring a tremendous amount of extra publicity, potentially negative, right? So she took a bet. she made a bet. And it was a bet that I think was made with a deep sense of conscience and of feeling like it was the right thing to do, and that this man was innocent, and that he was the victim of a hoax. But it was a risky bet, and she made it. And she stood up for him in her own way, very powerful. And guess what? Now that bet is paying off, because now the worm has turned, as they say, and Johnny Depp is increasingly going to be celebrated, and he's beloved, and he's being reinstated into society. I see that they're even now talking again about the idea of another Pirates of the Caribbean. Who knows? But I'm just saying that that phrase by Martin Luther King, the moral arc of the universe is long but it bends toward justice, which, yes, I know is corny at times and a cliche or whatever, but also often true. Not always, but often true. And there really is something to be said in all of this for courage. And also, I feel the need to remind people that I do think ultimately in the end, courage often pays off. I mean, not always, like Joan of Arc, I realize that her fate, speaking of another Joan, uh, another French woman, no, nobody came in at the end and saved her. Martyrdom is a bit of a different thing anyway. But I'm just saying, though, in general, I haven't done a study on it, an empirical study, but I've found that if you have a gut instinct about something, and if you feel even a kind of a moral imperative towards something, that standing up for that, when appropriate or whatever, but standing up for that is usually a good bet. It's usually a good bet, even in um, a Machiavellian or a self-interested way. So I guess I'm saying that I'm just, very impressed with May Wen, that she did this, in the game of life. People who can see ahead several steps and act on that vision, you know, that's impressive. And it's paying off for her already, and it's paying off for Johnny Depp. And I think that there are great things to come with this. But how fabulous. What a big deal. What a big deal. And, Johnny Depp, he used that analogy once. He said something to the effect, right, of it'll be great when I can see you on the other side of the roaring rapids, or when we're over to the other side of the roaring rapids, right? Because when people get into these cancellation situations, the roaring rapids analogy is interesting, because what it is like, I've observed this, what it is like for people who get canceled or who are falsely accused and get caught up in these media firestorms and these sensationalized stories, and all of that, right? It is really like for them, someone has picked them up out of their normal everyday lives that in various ways are safe or comfortable or have the promise of good things ahead, or the possibility of new and interesting things ahead, or love or children or marriage or new career projects or whatever, right? They're walking along this path, right? They're walking along this path that they've been walking for a long time. And in some cases, many cases, they've spent decades building up careers. Decades. Decades. Marilyn Manson, decades. Johnny Depp, decades. Armie Hammer, the guy was working and working and working and working so hard to try to crack the formula of superstardom and become a big actor. And also, I talked on my live stream the other night about the former head of Amazon Studios, Roy Price. He was forced to resign because of what looks to be a misunderstood joke. Or at the very worst, this woman claims that he was at 1 a.m. in a cab on the way to a party with another male Amazon executive in the car, that Roy was flirting too aggressively with her. And this man, I looked into this one. This man had decades of work in the industry, of work and of education. He went to Harvard, and then he got his law degree and started out at the bottom rung. He was a production assistant on, I think, like the Return to the Blue Lagoon or something. And worked in different jobs, and worked as a consultant at McKinsey, and then up and up and up. And finally, worked a long time at Disney, finally became the founder and head of Amazon Studios, right? So think about Amazon, anytime you go and you watch a movie on Amazon or Amazon Prime, right? Or if there's any Amazon TV shows that you like or whatever, like, it's huge. It's a movie studio and a film studio. And he started it. His boss was Jeff Bezos, who owned Amazon, but like this guy, Roy Price, he started it. Never had any issues, never had any complaints or anything other than this one night where a woman claimed that he flirted too aggressively, and he was out because it was at the same time as the allegations against Weinstein came out. So this guy was done, and he had decades of really hard work behind him trying to get to the top, and then he gets this dream job that few can even dream of, can even aspire to, as the to not only be the head of a major movie and TV studio, but to actually create one out of whole cloth. Like amazing, amazing, and it was all done. It was all done for nothing. It was for nothing. I don't understand that. I think it's wrong. I think that we all intrinsically, most of us understand that that's wrong. And so what I'm trying to say is that you look at these situations where these people, whether we're talking about Johnny Depp or we're talking about Roy Price or we're talking about Marilyn Manson or any of the other people, the men who have been falsely accused in these Me Too hoaxes or these Me Too overreactions or whatever, is that they're going along this path that they've taken years and decades to establish, and they're making progress and they're building a life, and in often cases they're building a really beautiful life, and then bam, out of nowhere these allegations hit. There's no one to really look into it deeply. They're not adjudicated in court, or if they are, it takes a lot of time and it's after the cancellations already happened. Like Marilyn Manson, he's fighting his in court. Johnny Depp had to fight his in court. But in the meantime, they're canceled. And they are thrown into the roaring rapids because they are completely disoriented. They completely lose their bearings. I mean, have you ever fallen into really rough river waters before? If you have been kayaking or rafting or just on the river and you fall in, it's completely disorienting, right? You're trying to get your bearings. You're gulping for air too at the same time. You're trying to stand up. You're trying not to get too knocked around and hit by things. Like it is awful. And metaphorically speaking, these men are going along a path that they have sacrificed blood, sweat, and tears and years of their life to be on, and that they have proven themselves above, really above so many other human beings. They have proven themselves to be exceptionally talented. Like, there is something valuable about talent, and there is something that Johnny Depp can do, or that some of these others can do, that maybe your average person, like, can't. And so these people, these really, in many cases, extremely intelligent and and hardworking and accomplished and gifted people who are doing interesting things with their lives, they get knocked into these rapids and they just get absolutely torn apart by these ridiculous media narratives, the piranha like media, and false accusers who can't wait to get on their little soapboxes and declare, well, I just, I'm in a position of privilege, and I have to use that position to draw attention to what's going on in the world and the way that women are being subjugated, right? Meanwhile, these guys are just getting like tossed about and hit in every possible way. They've got people bailing, friends not sticking around. They lose their reputations. It's like a Latin, it's like in ancient Rome, the damnatio memoriae, right? Because these guys are not just canceled, but then their previous work retroactively is now viewed through this like suspicious filter. It's like everything that was a part of their work and their history is now filtered through this cancellation paradigm. And these guys are just knocked about. They're just knocked about over and over and over until they get totally beat up and they almost drown. And it takes some time. It takes some time to work your way through the roaring rapids. Even if you got help, even if you got a lot of good souls on the internet, or your friends or whatever who are there with you and trying to help you cross, you still have to cross it by yourself. That's the thing, right? And that's the thing that I wish people understood more about these situations too. I'm talking about these cancellations. I'm talking about these situations where men's lives are ruined by unfair, untrue, or exaggerated Me Too type allegations. And no, I know it's not all the time or whatever, right? But this is what I focus on my show, okay? Other media, most of the media, they can focus on promoting Me Too and on promoting the idea that women don't lie and all of that. But I'm promoting on here the truth, and I'm also trying to focus people's attention on some of these men who are out here, more or less drowning, or I should put it this way, struggling to get across these rapids. And the truth is that, and I've seen it in various cases I've looked into, people I've talked to, is that it is a deeply lonely experience because it is a kind of death. And just like death, no one can do it for you. You can have people who are there holding your hand and trying to take care of you and make it easier and help you, but it is something that people have to in some ways cross alone. And it takes so much struggle and it takes so much patience, and it is a feeling of day by day by day getting beat up. And so to see, I guess this is my point, is to see that Johnny Depp, it looks like he has gotten to the other side of the Roaring Rapids. And I wasn't sure if he was there at the end of the trial because it still remained to be seen if he would be welcomed back, if not into Hollywood immediately, at least into some facet of the entertainment or film industry. And that has happened and more. And with this Cannes Film Festival announcement that Johnny Depp's new movie that he's starring in, that he's a central figure in, that it is not just going to be screened in the festival, but it's going to open the festival, that he's gotten to the other side. He's gotten to the other side of the Roaring Rapids. So let's make sure, everybody, Johnny Depp supporters, that someone doesn't suddenly, like in a horror movie at the end, like the end of Friday the 13th, where the lake is very placid and she's in the canoe or the kayak or whatever, and then the very last shot, right, Jason coming out of the water. We don't want that. We don't want someone in the news media, AH or Cat Tin Barge or Christopher Boozy or whatever. We don't want these people, like zombies, Night of the Living Dead, like they've got, what's that stuff in The Last of Us, the cytocorpse or what? Anyway, what I'm talking about. We don't want these like zombies, these Jasons, coming out of the lake the last minute, coming out of the river at the last minute and like pulling him back. So we got to hold the line. Okay. We got to keep supporting him. We got to, this movie, it's a great opportunity to get the word out again. And so I'm going to continue doing it. And I know a number of you will. And also, let me just say, maybe it would be a good thing, since it looks like Johnny Depp is finally, thank God, across those rapids. Maybe it would be a good thing if, since we're already in the water trying to help him across, if now that we've helped him across, we turn around and we see the other guys who are still in the water. Maybe see these other guys, and maybe we can try to help them get all the way across too. All right. And that's one of the things I'm trying to do on here. Not every video, not every topic or whatever, but yeah, I am trying to help people who I think have been unfairly accused of various things. I'm trying to help. So I appreciate your support. As always, if you got something out of this video or if you like what I'm doing, check out my work. And also my tip and donation links are below. Always PayPal, Patreon, always appreciated. They do take less of your money than YouTube, unfortunately. So anyway, thanks everybody, and I'll be back. Bye.